Captain Jake Patterson stood on the bridge of the used Denver, watching the stars through the main window. The ship moved slowly through space near the outer edge of human territory. It was supposed to be a routine patrol, nothing special. Just another day checking the borders and making sure everything was quiet. Patterson had been doing this job for 15 years. He was a tall man with gray hair starting to show at his temples. His uniform was clean and pressed, but his boots showed, the wear of someone who had walked many ship decks. The crew respected him because he had fought in the Centauri Wars and knew how to handle trouble. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Martinez walked up to him carrying a datapad. She was shorter than Patterson, with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her uniform had the patches of a former Marine, and she moved with the careful steps of someone always ready for action. "Sir, we're getting some strange readings on the long-range sensors," Martinez said. She handed him the datapad. "Looks like alien ships, but they're not moving like they're in a hurry." Patterson looked at the screen. 3 large ships hung in space about 50,000 kilometers away. They were bigger than any human ship he had ever seen, with smooth curves and no sharp edges. Blue lights ran along their sides in patterns that seemed to shift and change. "Any idea who they are?" Patterson asked. "Computer says they match Zephyrian design," Martinez answered. "But we've never seen them this close to human space before." Patterson knew about the Zephyrians. They were one of the older alien races in the galaxy. Their ships were fast and their weapons were powerful. Most importantly, they had never been friendly to humans. They thought humans were too young and too primitive to be worth talking to. "Open a channel to them," Patterson ordered. "Let's see what they want." The main screen flickered and then showed the bridge of the alien ship. The creature looking back at them was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and large black eyes. Its head was longer than a human head, and it wore a uniform covered in symbols that meant nothing to Patterson. "I am Admiral Keffer of the Zephyrian Confederation," the alien said. Its voice was translated by the computer, but it still sounded strange and cold. "You are Captain Patterson of the human vessel Denver." "That's right," Patterson said. "You're pretty far from Zephyrian space, Admiral. Is there something I can help you with?" Admiral Keffer made a sound that might have been laughter. "Help? From humans? That is amusing. We have been watching your ships, Captain. We are curious about your technology." Patterson felt Martinez tense up beside him. When aliens started asking about human technology, it usually meant trouble. "What kind of curiosity?" he asked. "Your weapons," the Admiral said. "Our sensors show that you still use kinetic projectiles. Bullets, as you call them. This puzzles us greatly." The alien leaned forward in his chair. Behind him, other Zephyrians worked at control panels that glowed with soft light. Everything on their ship looked clean and advanced, like it had been built yesterday. "We mastered energy weapons 300 years ago," Admiral Keffer continued. "Our plasma rifles can melt through any armor. Our ships carry beam weapons that can cut other ships in half. Yet you humans still carry guns that shoot metal bullets. Why?" Patterson chose his words carefully. "Our weapons work well enough for us." "Work well enough?" The Admiral's large eyes seemed to grow even larger. "Captain, we could demonstrate the power of modern weapons for you. Perhaps your people would be interested in trading for superior technology." Martinez stepped closer to Patterson and whispered, "Sir, this feels like a setup." Patterson nodded slightly. He had the same feeling. In all his years in space, he had learned to trust his instincts. Right now, those instincts were telling him that Admiral Keffer was not just curious about human weapons. "That's an interesting offer, Admiral," Patterson said out loud. "Where did you have in mind for this demonstration?" "The Kronos system has an asteroid field that would be perfect," the Admiral replied. "No one lives there, and there are plenty of targets to shoot at. We could meet there in 6 hours." Patterson looked at Martinez, then back at the screen. 6 hours should be enough time. We'll see you there, Admiral." "Excellent," Admiral Keffer said. "I look forward to showing you what real weapons can do." The screen went dark. Patterson stared at it for a moment, then turned to Martinez. "Get Dr. Peter Clark up here," he ordered, "and send a message to command." Tell them we're about to have a demonstration with the Zephyrians. You think it's a trap, sir? Martinez asked. Maybe, maybe not, but I want to be ready either way. Dr. Clark arrived on the bridge a few minutes later. He was a thin man with thick glasses who studied alien life forms. He had joined the crew 2 months ago and was still getting used to life on a military ship. Captain, you wanted to see me? Clark asked. What do you know about Zephyrian military tactics? Patterson asked. Clark pushed his glasses up his nose. They're aggressive, but not usually subtle. If they want something, they tend to take it directly. Their technology is about 200 years ahead of ours in most areas. What about their weapons? Plasma-based energy systems. Very powerful, very accurate. They can punch through most types of armor and shields. Clark paused. Why do you ask? Patterson told him about the conversation with Admiral Kethver. Clark listened carefully, nodding at some parts and frowning at others. It doesn't make sense, Clark said when Patterson finished. Zephyrians don't usually care about human technology. They think we're too primitive to be worth their attention. That's what worries me, Patterson said. Martinez, how long until we reach the Kronos system? 4 hours at current speed, sir. Good. That gives us time to prepare. Patterson turned to address the whole bridge crew. I want all weapons checked and ready. Load the railguns with tungsten rounds. Make sure every Marine on this ship has a full load of ammunition. One of the younger officers looked confused. Sir, if their weapons are so advanced, why are we loading bullets? Patterson smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Because sometimes the old ways are the best ways, Lieutenant. And sometimes aliens learn that the hard way. Martinez began giving orders to the crew. The ship's computer announced that they were changing course for the Kronos system. Throughout the Denver, Marines checked their rifles and pistols. The weapons were not as flashy as alien plasma guns, but they had been tested in dozens of battles. Across human space, Patterson walked to his ready room and opened a secure channel to Earth Command. Admiral Sarah Brooks appeared on the screen. She was an older woman with short white hair and eyes that had seen too many wars. Jake, what's the situation? She asked. Patterson explained about the Zephyrians and their request for a demonstration. Admiral Brooks listened without interrupting. Do you think they're planning an attack? She asked. My gut says yes. They're asking too many questions about our weapons, and they chose a location where no one would see what happens. What do you need? Permission to defend myself if this goes bad. And maybe a backup plan in case we don't come back? Admiral. Brooks was quiet for a moment. Permission granted, and Jake? Show them why humans still carry bullets. The channel closed. Patterson sat back in his chair and looked out the small window in his ready room. The stars looked the same as always. Cold and distant. But somewhere among them, 3 alien ships were waiting to see if human weapons were as primitive as they thought. In 3 hours, Admiral Kethver would get his demonstration. Patterson just hoped the Admiral would survive long enough to understand what he learned. The Kronos system looked empty and cold when the UES Denver arrived. Asteroids floated in the darkness like giant rocks frozen in time. Some were as small as cars, others as big as cities. The asteroid field stretched for millions of kilometers. In every direction, Captain Patterson stood on the bridge watching the Zephyrian ships. They had arrived first and were waiting in a perfect triangle formation. Their blue lights pulsed slowly, like they were breathing. The alien ships were beautiful in a way that made Patterson uncomfortable. They looked too perfect, like they had never seen real combat. All stations report ready, sir, Martinez said. She wore her sidearm on her hip, a heavy .45 caliber pistol that had belonged to her father. The weapon looked old and crude compared to the sleek alien technology around them, but Martinez trusted it more than any energy weapon. Dr. Clark, what do your sensors tell us about their weapons? Patterson asked. Clark looked up from his console. His face was pale and sweat showed on his forehead. The energy readings are incredible, Captain. Each of their ships carries enough firepower to level a city. Their main guns are charging up right now. For a demonstration, Patterson said quietly. Sir, incoming transmission from the Zephyrian flagship. The communications officer reported Admiral Kethver appeared on the main screen. He looked pleased with himself, like someone who was about to show off his favorite toy. Behind him, alien crew members moved around their bridge with smooth, practiced motions. "Captain Patterson, welcome to our little demonstration," the Admiral. "Sod, we have selected several targets for you to observe. Please watch carefully." The alien flagship turned toward a large asteroid about the size of a football field. Patterson could see weapons ports opening along the ship's hull. Blue energy began to build up inside the openings, growing brighter and brighter. "Plasma cannon? Full power," Admiral Kethver announced. A beam of blue-white energy shot out from the Zephyrian ship. It hit the asteroid dead center and kept going. The rock didn't just break apart. It melted. The entire asteroid turned into glowing liquid that scattered in all directions like burning rain. The other two Zephyrian ships fired at different targets. Each shot was perfect. Asteroids that had floated in space for millions of years vanished. In seconds, the energy beams cut through rock and metal like they were made of paper. "Impressive," Patterson said into the communications channel. "Very impressive." Admiral Kethver's large eyes seemed to glow with pride. "This is what modern warfare looks like, Captain. Clean, efficient, absolute. Would you like to demonstrate your primitive weapons now?" Patterson looked at Martinez. She nodded and stepped forward. "I'll take the demonstration," Martinez said. She was carrying her personal rifle, a railgun that fired tungsten core bullets at incredible speed. The weapon was heavier than the standard issue guns, and Martinez had modified it herself. A piece of broken asteroid drifted past the Denver. It was about the size of a school bus, made of dark rock and metal. Martinez aimed carefully through the targeting system. "Firing," she announced. The railgun made a sharp crack sound. The tungsten bullet traveled so fast it was invisible. It hit the asteroid and punched a perfect hole straight through it. The rock kept spinning, but now it had a tunnel running from one side to the other. Admiral Kethver looked at the screen showing the damaged asteroid. "Is that all?" "You put a small hole in a rock?" "The hole goes all the way through," Martinez said calmly. "Our weapons destroy the entire target." "Your weapon barely damages it? Surely you can see that our technology is superior." Patterson stepped back up to the communication station. Something about the Admiral's tone bothered him. The alien sounded too confident, too pleased with himself. "Your weapons are certainly powerful, Admiral," Patterson said. "But I'm curious about something. How often can you fire them?" "What do you mean? How long do you need to wait between shots?" Admiral Kethver paused. It was just for a second, but Patterson caught it. "Our weapons are very efficient," the Admiral said. "That's not what I asked." Another pause, this time longer. "Plasma weapons require time to build up energy between firings. But this is not important for combat." Patterson felt Martinez tense up beside him. Dr. Clark was staring at his sensor. Readings with wide eyes. Something was happening on the Zephyrian ships. "Captain," Clark whispered. "They're moving into attack formation." The three alien ships had been spread out in a loose triangle. Now they were closing in around the Denver. Their blue lights were pulsing faster, and Patterson could see more weapon ports opening. "Admiral, what are you doing?" Patterson asked. The alien's face changed. The friendly expression disappeared, replaced by something cold and hungry. "I apologize for the deception, Captain, but this demonstration has served its purpose." "Which was?" "To confirm that human weapons are as primitive as we believed. Your sector of space contains several systems that the Confederation requires for mining operations. We had hoped to acquire them through negotiation, but humans have proven too stubborn." Patterson felt ice in his stomach. "So you're just going to take them?" "We are going to remove the obstacle," Admiral Kethver said. "Your ships, your colonies, your entire species if necessary. The galaxy has no place for primitives who refuse to acknowledge their betters." The communication channel closed. Warning lights began flashing on the Denver's bridge as the ship's computers detected the alien weapons powering up. The three Zephyrian ships had formed a perfect triangle around the human vessel. "All hands, battle stations," Patterson announced. Over the ship's intercom. This is not a drill. Prepare for combat. Martinez was already moving, checking her weapons and calling up tactical displays. Sir, they have us surrounded. Each of their ships is twice our size. Dr. Clark, I need to know everything about their weapons. Weaknesses, limitations, anything, Patterson ordered. Clark's fingers flew over his console. The plasma builds up. Heat when they fire. If they shoot too much too fast, their systems will overheat. But Captain, they don't need to fire very much to destroy us. The first plasma beams lit up space around the Denver. Patterson felt the ship shake as the energy. Weapons hit their shields. Sparks flew from damaged control panels and the lights flickered. Shields down to 60%, someone reported. Return fire, all weapons, Patterson ordered. The Denver's railguns began shooting. Tungsten bullets streaked through space toward the alien ships. Most of them hit, but the impacts looked tiny compared to the massive alien vessels. It was like throwing pebbles at elephants. Another wave of plasma beams struck the Denver. This time the hits were more accurate. The shield generator exploded in a shower of sparks and hull plating began to glow red-hot. Shields are gone, sir, Martinez reported. Hull damage on decks 4 through 7. Patterson watched the tactical display. The Zephyrian ships were taking their time, firing carefully aimed shots. They were not in any hurry. They knew they were winning, but Patterson had been in enough battles to know that the first few minutes were not the whole fight. The aliens thought human weapons were useless. They thought the battle was already over. That was going to be their first mistake. All ships, close distance, Patterson ordered over the fleet channel. Get as close as you can to those alien ships. Sir, that will put us in range of all their weapons, Martinez said. Yes, it will, Patterson agreed. But it will also put them in range of all of ours. And I have a feeling our weapons work better up close than they think. The Denver's engines roared to life. The ship accelerated straight toward the nearest Zephyrian vessel. Behind them, 2 other human ships followed. They were smaller and weaker than the alien ships, but they were about to teach Admiral Kethver something about the weapons he thought were so primitive. The Denver shook as another plasma beam hit its hull. Captain Patterson held onto his chair and watched the tactical display. The human ship was racing toward the nearest Zephyrian vessel at full speed. The distance between them was closing fast. Hull? Temperature rising on the port side, Martinez reported. We can't take many more hits like that. Patterson could see the problem. The alien plasma weapons were incredibly powerful, but they took time to charge up between shots. Right now, that was working in the aliens' favor. They could take careful aim and fire devastating shots while the human ships tried to get close. Sir, the Zephyrian ships are spreading out, Dr. Clark said from his sensor station. They're trying to keep us at long range. Smart of them, Patterson said, but not smart enough. Martinez, target their weapon systems. I want continuous fire on those plasma cannons. The Denver's railguns began firing as fast as they could. Unlike the alien weapons, the human guns could shoot over and over without stopping. Tungsten bullets streaked through space in an endless stream, hammering against the Zephyrian shields. At first, the alien shields held. The bullets bounced off or were deflected away. But Patterson wasn't trying to break through the shields. He was trying to make the aliens do something stupid. Captain, incoming transmission from Admiral Kethver, the communications officer, said. Patterson waved him away. Not now, I'm busy. The Zephyrian flagship was turning to bring more weapons to bear on the Denver. Patterson could see the plasma cannons charging up again. Blue light was building in the weapon ports, getting brighter and brighter. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Patterson ordered. Don't let them get a clean shot. The Denver rolled to the left just as the plasma beam fired. The energy blast missed by only a few meters. The heat from the beam was so intense that it melted part of the ship's antenna array, but something else happened that Patterson had been hoping for. The alien weapon that had just fired was now dark. The plasma cannon needed time to recharge before it could fire again. Martinez, did you see that? Patterson asked. Yes, sir. The weapon went offline for at least 30 seconds after firing. And look at their heat signatures. Dr. Clark was already checking his sensors. Captain, the Zephyrian ships are showing increased thermal output. Their weapon systems are generating a lot of heat. Patterson smiled grimly. This was exactly what he had hoped to discover. The alien weapons were powerful, but they had a weakness. Every time they fired, they built up heat that had to be dispersed before they could fire again. All ships, continuous fire on all targets, Patterson ordered. Don't stop shooting. Make them fire back as much as possible. The 3 human ships spread out and began hammering the Zephyrian vessels with everything. They had railgun rounds, missile salvos, and laser bursts filled the space between the fleets. The human weapons were not as powerful as the alien plasma cannons, but they could fire much faster. Admiral Kethfer's response was predictable. The Zephyrian ships began firing back rapidly, trying to destroy the human vessels before they could get any closer. Plasma beams lit up the darkness as the aliens poured energy into their weapons. "Sir, look at the thermal readings now," Dr. Clark said excitedly. Patterson looked at the sensor display. The Zephyrian ships were glowing like hot coals. Their hulls were radiating so much heat that they looked like small suns on the thermal sensors. "They're overheating," Martinez said. "Their weapons are producing more heat than their cooling systems can handle, and that means what?" Patterson asked, though he already knew the answer. "They're going to have to slow down their rate of fire, or their weapons will burn out." Patterson watched as the Zephyrian ships began to cycle their weapons on and off, trying to manage the heat buildup. Some plasma cannons went dark while others continued firing. The aliens were being forced to reduce their rate of fire just to keep their weapons functional. "Now we close the distance," Patterson said. "All ships, maximum acceleration, get us right on top of them." The Denver surged forward, followed by the other human vessels. They were inside the asteroid field now, dodging between floating rocks, while the Zephyrian ships tried to track them. The aliens were having trouble with the close-range maneuvering. Their ships were bigger and less agile than the human vessels. "Captain, we're getting close enough for boarding actions," Martinez said. Patterson looked at the tactical display. The nearest Zephyrian ship was less than a kilometer away. At this range, even the human small arms could be effective. "Sergeant." Tom Bradley to the bridge, Patterson announced over the intercom. Bradley arrived within a minute. He was a big man with scars on his hands and arms from previous battles. His Marine uniform was equipped with a standard assault rifle, sidearm, and enough ammunition to fight a small war. "You wanted to see me, sir?" Bradley asked. "Tom, how would you like to show some aliens what human weapons can really do?" Bradley grinned. It was not a nice grin. "I thought you'd never ask, sir." Patterson pointed at the tactical display. "That Zephyrian cruiser has taken damage to its engines. It's not maneuvering very well. Think you can get aboard? Give me a shuttle. And 6 Marines, and I'll take their whole ship." "Do it, but Tom, be careful. We don't know what their personal weapons are like." Bradley nodded and headed for the door. As he left, Patterson could hear him talking to his Marines over the radio. "Gear up, boys. We're going to show these aliens why humans still carry bullets." The Denver continued its attack on the Zephyrian ships. The alien vessels were clearly in trouble now. Their plasma weapons were cycling on and off constantly as they tried to manage the heat buildup. Some of their cannons had gone dark completely, probably burned out from overuse. "Sir, the Zephyrian shields are fluctuating," Dr. Clark reported. "The power drain from their weapons is affecting their defensive systems." Patterson saw the opportunity immediately. "All ships, concentrate fire on the flagship. Target their shield generators." The human railguns began pounding the Zephyrian flagship with concentrated fire. The tungsten bullets struck the shields over and over, each impact draining a little more power from the alien defensive systems. The shields flickered and died. "Their shields are down," Martinez announced. "Switch to explosive rounds," Patterson ordered. "Let's see how their hull armor handles some old-fashioned firepower." The Denver's weapons switched to high explosive rounds designed to blast through armor plating. The bullets struck the alien hull and exploded, tearing holes in the smooth metal surface. Atmosphere began venting from the Zephyrian ship as the human weapons found their mark. Meanwhile, Sergeant Bradley's shuttle was approaching the damaged Zephyrian cruiser. The alien ship was listing to one side, its engines flickering on and off. It was perfect for a boarding action. "Bradley to Denver," came the radio transmission. "We're going in. Wish us luck." Patterson watched on the tactical display as the shuttle docked with the alien ship. 6 Marines with conventional weapons were about to board a vessel full of aliens with advanced technology. In any normal situation, it would be suicide, but Patterson was beginning to realize that this was not a normal situation. The aliens had made a fundamental mistake. They had assumed that newer technology was always better. They had forgotten that sometimes the old ways worked better than the new ones. "Sir, multiple explosions inside the Zephyrian cruiser," Dr. Clark reported. "It looks like Sergeant Bradley's team is making progress." Patterson smiled. The aliens were about to learn something that humans had known for thousands of years. In a fight, the weapon that works is better than the weapon that's supposed to work. And human weapons always worked. Sergeant Tom Bradley stepped through the hole his team had blown in the Zephyrian ship's hull. The alien corridor was filled with smoke and flickering lights. Everything inside the ship looked sleek and smooth, like it had been carved from a single piece of metal. But now it was damaged and broken. Bradley carried his assault rifle ready to fire. Behind him, 6 Marines spread out in formation. Each one had a rifle, sidearm, and enough ammunition to fight for hours. Their weapons looked crude compared to the alien technology around them, but Bradley trusted them more than any fancy energy weapon. "Movement ahead," whispered Private Danny Cooper. Pointing down the corridor with his rifle barrel, 3 Zephyrians appeared around a corner. They were tall and thin, wearing what looked like armor made of the same smooth metal as their ship. Each alien carried a weapon that glowed with blue energy. The aliens saw the humans at the same time. One of them raised his weapon and fired. A beam of plasma energy shot down the corridor, missing Bradley by inches. The energy beam hit the wall behind him and melted a hole the size of a dinner plate. Bradley and his Marines fired back immediately. Their rifles made sharp, cracking sounds as bullets flew down the corridor. The Zephyrian armor was designed to spread out energy from plasma weapons, but it did almost nothing against high-speed bullets. The first alien went down with 3 bullets in his chest. The second one tried to fire again, but his weapon was still charging up from the first shot. Cooper's rifle put 2 rounds through the alien's head before the plasma weapon could fire. The third Zephyrian turned to run, but Bradley's bullets caught him in the back. "Their weapons are slow," Bradley said into his radio. "Takes them several seconds to charge up between shots. Our rifles can put out 30 rounds in the same time." On the bridge of the Denver, Captain Patterson listened to Bradley's report while watching the space battle continue around them. The Zephyrian flagship was venting atmosphere from dozens of holes blown by human explosive rounds. Its plasma cannons had stopped firing completely, probably burned out from overheating. "Sir, the second Zephyrian ship is trying to retreat," Martinez reported. Patterson looked at the tactical display. One of the alien vessels was turning away from the battle, its engines glowing bright as it tried to escape. But it was moving slowly, and Patterson could see why. The ship's hull was glowing red-hot from all the energy its weapons had been producing. "They can't cool down their systems fast enough," Dr. Clark said. "Their own weapons are cooking them from the inside." "Don't let them get away," Patterson ordered. "All ships, pursue and disable." The human ships chased after the retreating Zephyrian vessel. The alien ship was faster than the human vessels when it was running properly, but right now it was limping. Its engines kept flickering on and off as the ship's computer tried to manage the heat overload. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Martinez led a squadron of human fighters in the pursuit. Each fighter carried conventional missiles and rapid-fire cannons. The weapons were simple and reliable, designed to work in any situation. "Fox 1, Fox 2, Martinez announced as she fired 2 missiles at the fleeing alien ship. The Zephyrian point defense systems tried to stop the incoming missiles, but they were calibrated for energy weapons. The alien computers could track plasma, beams and laser shots, but they had trouble with the unpredictable flight paths of conventional missiles. Both missiles hit the alien ship's engines. Explosions rippled along the vessel's hull as the human warheads detonated. The ship's engines went dark and it began to drift helplessly through space. Target disabled, Martinez reported. Moving to assist Sergeant Bradley. Back inside the Zephyrian cruiser, Bradley and his team were fighting their way toward the bridge. The corridors were full of smoke and the smell of burned metal. Every few meters they encountered more aliens trying to stop them. The pattern was always the same. The Zephyrians would fire their plasma weapons, missing most of their shots because the weapons were hard to aim quickly. Then the Marines would return fire with their rifles, putting dozens of bullets downrange in the time it took the aliens to recharge for a second shot. "These aliens fight like they've never seen projectile weapons before," said Corporal Janet Mills as she reloaded her rifle. "They keep trying to duck behind cover that stops energy beams but not bullets," Bradley nodded. The alien cover was designed to absorb or deflect plasma shots. But human bullets went right through the thin metal barriers like they were made of paper. The Zephyrians had no experience fighting enemies who used kinetic weapons. "There," Bradley pointed ahead to a heavy door marked with alien symbols. "That should be their bridge." The Marines set up explosive charges around the door. The blast blew the barrier apart, filling the bridge with smoke and debris. Bradley and his team rushed through the opening. Weapons ready, the Zephyrian bridge was full of alien crew members working at control stations. They looked up in surprise as the humans burst in. Several aliens reached for sidearms, but Bradley's team was faster. "Drop your weapons," Bradley shouted. Though he doubted the aliens understood him, one Zephyrian officer tried to draw what looked like a small plasma pistol. Cooper's rifle fired 3 times, and the alien collapsed. The other Zephyrians froze, their large black eyes wide with fear. "Bridge secured," Bradley reported over the radio. "We control their ship." On the Denver's bridge, Patterson smiled as he listened to the report. The battle was turning in humanity's favor, but he could see that Admiral Kethfer was not giving up yet. The Zephyrian flagship was still fighting, even though half its weapons were destroyed. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Admiral," the communications officer reported. "Put him through," Patterson said. Admiral Kethfer appeared on the screen. His smooth alien features were twisted with anger and disbelief. Behind him, his bridge was dark and filled with smoke. Several control stations were sparking and damaged. "This is impossible," the Admiral said. "Your primitive weapons cannot defeat our technology. We are hundreds of years more advanced than you." "Advanced doesn't always mean better," Patterson replied. "Sometimes it just means more complicated. Your bullets are crude projectiles. Our plasma weapons can melt through any armor." "When they work," Patterson said. "How many of your weapons are still functioning, Admiral?" The alien's face grew even more angry. Patterson could see the truth in the Admiral's expression. Most of the Zephyrian weapons had burned out from overheating. The aliens had been so focused on making powerful weapons that they had forgotten to make them reliable. "You cannot have one," Admiral Kethfer said. "This must be some kind of trick." "No trick," Patterson said. "Just basic military tactics. You made your weapons too complicated. When they overheat, they stop working. Our weapons are simple. They work when we need them to work." On the tactical display, Patterson could see that the third Zephyrian ship was also in trouble. Martinez's fighters had disabled its engines, and human boarding parties were preparing to take control of it. "Admiral, you have 2 choices," Patterson said. "You can surrender your remaining ship, or we can disable it the same way we disabled the others." "Surrender?" The alien's voice was full of shock. "The Zephyrian Confederation does not surrender to primitives." "Then you're about to learn something new," Patterson said. "Martinez, disable their engines." Human fighters swarmed around the Zephyrian flagship. Their missiles and cannon fire targeted the alien ship's propulsion systems. Within minutes, the flagship was dead in space. Its engines destroyed and its weapons silent. Admiral Kethfer stared at Patterson from the main screen. For the first time, the alien looked uncertain. His advanced fleet had been defeated by humans using weapons that the Zephyans considered obsolete. How? The Admiral asked quietly. Because we never forgot that in a fight, the weapon that works is better than the weapon that's supposed to work, Patterson said. And Admiral, our weapons always work. Admiral Kethfer sat in the holding cell aboard the UZ Denver, staring at the metal walls around him. The cell was simple and plain, nothing like the smooth curves and flowing lines of Zephyrian design. Everything here was built for function, not beauty. Just like human weapons, the Admiral's hands were bound with simple metal restraints. No energy fields or advanced technology, just old-fashioned steel cuffs that he could not break or disable. Even the human prison technology was primitive, but it worked perfectly. The door to the cell opened, and Captain Patterson walked in. He carried a chair and set it down across from the Admiral. Patterson looked tired but satisfied, like a man who had just finished a difficult job. Admiral, Patterson said, sitting down. I think it's time we had a talk. Kethfer looked up at the human captain. The alien's large black eyes were filled with confusion and something that might have been fear. I do not understand what happened out there, he said quietly. What don't you understand? Your weapons are primitive. Our technology is centuries ahead of yours. We should have destroyed your ships in minutes. The Admiral's voice was full of disbelief. How did you defeat us? Patterson leaned back in his chair. That's a good question, Admiral. Let me ask you something first. How long has it been since the Zephyrian Confederation fought a real war? The Admiral thought for a moment. We had a border dispute with the Altarian Republic 40 years ago. A few skirmishes, nothing serious. Before that? Perhaps 80 years ago, there was a conflict over mining rights in the Vega system. Patterson nodded. So your people haven't fought a serious war in almost a century. Your weapons are designed in laboratories by scientists who have never been shot at, is that right? Our weapons are perfected through computer simulation and testing, the Admiral said proudly. We do not need crude trial and error methods. And that's your first mistake, Patterson said. Human weapons are designed by people who have used them in combat. Every rifle, every bullet, every piece of equipment we carry has been tested in real battles against real enemies. The Admiral shook his head. But our plasma weapons are more powerful than your projectile weapons. Sometimes, when they work. But what happens when they overheat? What happens when the power goes out? What happens when the computer systems fail? Patterson stood up and began pacing around the small cell. Admiral, what happens when your perfect weapons stop being perfect? Our technology is reliable, the Admiral insisted, but his voice was not as confident as before. Is it? How many of your weapons burned out during our battle? How many of your ships had to cycle their guns on and off because they were overheating? How many of your systems failed when you needed them most? The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Patterson could see the alien was thinking about what had happened during the fight. Finally, Kethfer spoke. Many of our weapons experienced difficulties. They broke, Patterson said bluntly. Your advanced weapons broke when you tried to use them in a real fight. Our primitive weapons kept working. The door to the cell opened again, and Dr. Peter Clark walked in. He was carrying a data pad and looked excited about something. Captain, I've finished analyzing the Zephyrian technology. You're going to want to hear this. Go ahead, Doctor. Clark looked at his notes. The Zephyrian plasma weapons are incredibly advanced, but they have a fundamental design flaw. They produce enormous amounts of heat when they fire, and they need complex cooling systems to function. When those cooling systems can't keep up, the weapons shut down to prevent damage. And our weapons? Patterson asked. Our kinetic weapons produce very little heat. They can fire continuously for hours without overheating. More importantly, they don't need complex computer systems or power sources. A bullet works the same way whether the ship has power or not. Admiral Kethfer listened to this explanation with growing understanding. You are saying that your simple technology is more reliable than our advanced technology? That's exactly what I'm saying, Patterson replied. Admiral, your people made a mistake that many advanced civilizations make. You assume that newer is always better. You forgot that the best weapon is the one that works when you need it to work. Clark continued reading from his datapad. There's something else, Captain. The Zephyrian shields are specifically designed to deflect energy weapons. They work by dispersing plasma beams and laser shots across a wide area. But they're almost useless against physical projectiles. Our bullets went right through their shields, Patterson said to the Admiral. Your defenses were designed to stop weapons like yours, not weapons like ours. The Admiral's shoulders slumped. We never considered that an enemy might use kinetic weapons. We assumed all civilizations would develop along the same technological path as ours. Another mistake, Patterson said. Humans develop technology differently than other species. We keep the old methods that work while we develop new ones. We don't throw away something useful just because we've invented something newer. Dr. Clark put away his datapad. Captain, I think there's a larger lesson here. The Zephyrians became so specialized in energy weapons that they forgot the basics of warfare. They optimized their technology for fighting enemies exactly like themselves. While humans have fought enemies using every kind of weapon imaginable, Patterson added, we've learned to adapt to any situation. Admiral Kethver looked up at Patterson. What will you do with me? With my people, Patterson sat back down in his chair. That depends on you, Admiral. I could send you back to the Zephyrian Confederation as a prisoner exchange, or I could send you back with a message. What kind of message? The kind that might prevent a war between our species. Patterson leaned forward. Admiral, your Confederation made a serious mistake today. You attacked human ships based on the assumption that we were weak because our technology looks primitive. How many other species in the galaxy have you made the same mistake with? The Admiral thought about this question. There are several species that we consider ... beneath our notice. Races that still use projectile weapons or chemical explosives. And now you know that those primitive weapons might be more dangerous than your advanced ones, Patterson said. Admiral, I want you to take a message back to your leaders. Tell them that humanity is willing to live in peace with the Zephyrian Confederation, but tell them also that we will defend ourselves against any aggression. They will not believe that humans defeated our fleet, the Admiral said. Then show them the wreckage of your ships. Show them the battle recordings. Make them understand that advanced technology means nothing if it doesn't work when you need it. Patterson stood up and walked to the door. Admiral, your people have a choice. You can learn from this defeat and become stronger, or you can refuse to learn and make the same mistakes again. And if we choose to fight again? Patterson turned back to look at the alien. Then you'll discover that humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We know how to use every weapon ever invented, from stones and sticks to nuclear missiles, and Admiral, we're very good at it. The cell door closed behind Patterson and Dr. Clark. Admiral Kethver sat alone in the simple metal room, thinking about everything he had learned. His advanced fleet had been destroyed by humans using weapons that looked like museum pieces. But those weapons had worked when the advanced ones had failed. 3 days later, Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of a human transport ship, watching as it approached the border of Zephyrian space. The ship was taking him home to deliver Patterson's message to the Confederation leadership. Behind them, floating in the asteroid field of the Kronos system, were the remains of 3 Zephyrian warships. The wrecks would stay there as a reminder that advanced technology was only as good as the people who used it. The message that Admiral Kethver would carry back was simple. Humans still use bullets because bullets worked. And any species that forgot the value of simple, reliable technology did so at their own risk. Word of the battle spread quickly through the galaxy. Other alien civilizations heard the story of how primitive human weapons had defeated advanced Zephyrian technology. Some species laughed at the story, thinking it was impossible. Others began to reconsider their own assumptions about human capabilities, but every species in the galaxy learned one important lesson. Never underestimate the race that still carries bullets. They keep them for a reason,